I'm not gonna lie, that cliffhanger point was really crappy. This is my thoughts on episode 9 of Muv-Luv Alternative. So let's jump into it. Picking up where we left off, we have Shirogane and the rest of them are basically guarding this Shogun estate, and Shirogane decides to randomly go for a walk. And as we'd all guessed it, yes, he ends up running into Her Majesty Kyobu in Yuhi. It's a weird name. And this is a funny part because he obviously thinks that they're just intruders in the area, so he holds them at gunpoint. And just randomly out of nowhere, Yoroi just pops up out of nowhere. I mean, I'm starting to think that Yoroi is like this magical person that just appears. Like, he's the NPC when you're in a game that just suddenly spawns in and walks up and says something. It's like, okay, where's this dude just coming out of nowhere at? But it seems like he's a little bit not so surprised that Shirogane is there. He kind of assumes that the professor was foreseeing this and had Shirogane be there for this particular situation, because we find out that, yes, Her Majesty has been kind of shuttled out of the capital into this location, and now it's going to be Shirogane's job to essentially take her to the base. Like, we can no longer be here, the rebel forces are coming and whatnot, and obviously there's this conflict that's currently happening, so Shirogane's asking him, like, you have the power to stop these guys, why don't you do that? And of course, she's technically already made that call. But yeah, Yoroi basically tells Shirogane that he's going to take her to the base. And as she's leaving, it kind of indicates that Yoroi is kind of one of her retainers, like somebody that works for her. And so while he's going to be doing some other work, she doesn't really want to lose him. So she's kind of telling him, be careful. I don't want to lose any more if I'm in. And this is kind of the theme throughout the episode. As we get this picture of this sister of Maya, she accepts her role that she's currently in, and at the same time has a lot of love for her people. She doesn't want to lose anybody. Every decision that she makes throughout this episode really does put the people before her, as she doesn't want this conflict to escalate. She doesn't want bloodshed or anything like that. But even still, despite her beliefs, it does seem like people really do want to have this uprising. There's a lot of rebels at play to put her at power. And it's really cool because you see this meeting at some point with this rebel forces being upset that she's not there, realizing that she left the capital for the sole sake that the conflict itself would not lead to any sort of collateral damage. Again, they respect this and they realize just how important she is and what a great leader she would be compared to what we currently have, because she puts the people first. So yeah, the mission updates, Shirogane is going to take her and they're all going to lead a force that will basically rush back to the base, while at the same time being aided along the way. As we find out, the Americans kind of rush in and help them out. They're like afraid because somebody kind of shows up out of nowhere under radar, and they're like, oh crap, who's this? And it ends up being the Americans. And they go by them after Shirogane almost opens fires on them. They go past them and intercept the rebel forces, and it has this the dorkiest scene ever. It was great. Not that I'm saying it was a bad scene, but yeah, basically the Americans going, hey, speak to us in English. By UN decree, you're supposed to speak in English, the international language. And the entire time the rebels are like, English could eat crap, and they start opening fire. It was a great scene. It was funny. But yeah, this new unit that the Americans have just wipes the floor with them. It doesn't even seem like there's even a chance against them. This is what we had an interesting conversation between Shirogane and Yuhi, as she's kind of asking him about the Takemikazuki suits that the Royal Guard use. And she's claiming that despite them having this Royal Guard along with their forces, she doesn't see any of these particular models. And at the same time questions why Maya's not using the one that she apparently gave to her. Like, so we find out where this came from. Obviously, we knew that they sent it to Maya for her to use this suit, but she obviously chose not to use a suit because she doesn't want this special treatment. But yeah, we're kind of finding out that it's literally from her sister. Her sister sent her this as a gift, and she claims that it's kind of according to what she heard, that Maya has never openly accepted any gift that she's ever given her, but despite this, she gives Shirogane this doll and says, can you get this one to her? I'm like, my gosh, flag. Like right there, flag. We have officially flagged you. And it's sad because they technically left this episode on a cliffhanger, a really nasty cliffhanger. And I think thinking back now on that gift, her handing this doll to Shirogane, I'm like, yeah, I don't see her lasting. Like, I don't see it. Maybe she might not die from this, because I think that would be kind of something that would wreck Shirogane. I can see this series doing that. I mean, I've technically watched Swartz and Markin, so I have a gist about how dark this writer can get, but I've never really had that much of a sense of dark feel from this show particularly, or at least this arc. But I can see this is where it's going to start, because my mind immediately goes to the twin sister takes over the throne. Like, when you see that Maya has a twin sister who is currently the Majesty, it kind of lends itself to that story. where she will eventually die and Maya will take her place. But yeah, the issue that we have this entire episode is that they need to get there quickly in order to not get cut off by the rebels. And so Shirogane is kind of struggling with, do I go faster? She's technically not in a suit or anything. She's not going to be able to accept these G-forces properly. She could die. And even though they do get a moment to kind of breathe, they keep having to push and keep pushing as they think that they're going to get cut off again and cut off again, eventually getting past this line and making it, but not before she collapses. Which I think is a really powerful point of this episode, with just how much she put her people before her. She's like, we need to get there quickly because the longer it takes us, the more lives are at stake. The more people are going to be fighting. If we can get there quickly, the fighting should stop and less lives will be sacrificed. So in a sense, like I said, knowing about this whole doll, knowing they're twin sisters, knowing that typical trapping that stories go in the direction of, leads me to believe that this cliffhanger will probably be she doesn't make it, which sucks in the vantage point of Shirogane because the entire time he was struggling with this. If I keep pushing, I will kill her essentially. Like him himself will be her end. He has the throttle, and by him not stopping is putting her life in danger. Yes, knowing full well that she is telling him to do it, telling him, basically ordering him to. Though you can make the argument that she's technically not his superior because he's part of the UN. He's not part of Japan or anything like that, even though she's apparently has control over the military. She doesn't technically have control over the UN. And by basically telling her to do it, he doesn't have to follow his orders. At least that's my understanding of this world, so I might be wrong there. But it's a self-sacrifice on her end, but at the same time, no matter how you look at it, it will be blood on his hands in his mind. Because he could have stopped, he could have let go, but knowing that she had this drive to protect her people, he kept pressing forward. The only thing this episode that puzzled me, and they never got to it, which does bother me. It could come up the next episode, honestly. I mean, it's no surprise there. But the two things that she brought up about the royal suit, the royal, I hate saying this name, Suka Takemikazuchi. She brought up that twice. The first time was because she said, isn't Tsukuyomi Mana with you? She should have one of those suits. Why isn't there one of those suits among you? Then the second time she said it, well, you have Maya with you, right? You know who Maya is. Why is there not a suit with you? So it kept having her pointing out the fact that these suits weren't there. So my guess as to why she's asking that is, I guess, a callback to the previous episode when Mana actually showed up and said, hey, we're here for you, and Maya told her to leave to go protect the Shogun. So I'm guessing that's what she's meaning, like she sent Mana to Maya, so she assumed that Mana would be with them, but Maya sent her away. But I would assume that Shirogane at that point would say, no, Maya sent her away. So I don't know if Mana was supposed to be there, and if Mana was supposed to be there, is that a clue in that something's going to happen in maybe the next episode? But yeah, excellent episode, a lot of tension, great music at the end of it, great little scenes at the end of this episode. I think that build up for that last scene was really fantastic. Like I said, the vocals and the music in there with it. And like I said, the mecha work and everything they've been doing so far is pretty awesome. Really crappy cliffhanger, but like I said, I kind of assume what's going to happen next, but we'll see. But that's my thoughts on episode 9 of Muv-Luv Alternative. Things are definitely ramping up, and from what I'm kind of getting whispers of, it's not going to let up. So I'm excited to see what this show does for the next 3 or so episodes. 3 episodes. Hope you guys enjoyed my impressions. If you did, leave a like down below, comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And by the way, don't spoil in the comments if she lives or don't. I don't want to know. But y'all take care.